Kelsey, how would you actually go about identifying your personas? Where would you start typically?
So there's a lot that's involved in this process. I usually like to start by talking to an admissions counselor or somebody on the marketing team for whatever program it might be. Could also include looking at some existing data that we have or doing some online research. But I think one of the most important pieces of this process is doing a student persona interview, because then you can hear firsthand what that student's journey looked like from start to finish.
What are some things you'll typically ask in the interview process?
I ask a lot of questions. I always start off with the basic demographic things, but then I move into more long-term goals, change drivers like Tim mentioned, understanding what made them realize that they wanted to make a change, and then how they went about doing that, what questions they asked, where they got their information, who was involved in the decision, and all of that. Is
it one interview and you're done, or do you try to get different perspectives?
No, I find that it's really helpful to have, if you can only do one, that's fine, but it's usually helpful to try to do as many as possible. And I also think that it's worth mentioning that you can learn almost as much from interviewing a student who decided not to go with your school.
Right. That's a really good call. Yeah. So you start with the interview, right? You get a whole bunch of notes, and that gives you a good idea who these profiles are, hopefully, right? What comes next? Do you need to turn to other sources first, or do you dive into creating them?
So, I mean,
I was going to say, I think it depends on how confident you feel in those personas. If you feel like you need more information, by all means, go ahead and get it. But from there, it's really about understanding what that all means in terms of your marketing efforts and what you're going to do with those insights. And in most cases, that's going to be planning your content to answer the questions that they have or help them overcome the challenges that they're seeing.
And I was just going to say, while it's important for you to interview current, former, and, students who may have chosen to go elsewhere, it's also really important just to make sure you're talking with anyone on your team, your internal team, who might be interacting with students at any point along that application process. Whether that's marketers on your team, if it's communications specialists, if it is enrollment coaches, anyone that might be
a student leading a tour of the school.
Yeah.
I think that's a good person too, just to keep a note of all the questions that are asked.
Yeah.
That'd be a good thing.